What's happening? No, I ain't even there with you. Commuting of it is the commutation, bro. Anyway, though, how y'all doing out there, man? This good old evening. Wow. Y'all just say anything in the comments. Oh, so 1090 Jake ain't the only one that said that. So this dude at Hefe coming back clearing it up saying that he didn't say it. It just popped up on my thing. I ain't trying to get into it with nobody new, but I don't believe these niggas is running with no newspaper article like that, bro. That is crazy, man. What's up with you? What it do? Yeah, I ain't see that shit either. Man, what do I think about Iran? That's the question you really want to ask me. Iran, I don't I like. It's in the Middle East. What you want me to say about Iran, bro? What's up with everybody else on this good Sunday, man? Where my crew at, man? What's my favorite quarterback in the NFL right now? Jaden Daniels. What's your favorite quarterback? Since we on this NFL talk, I ain't doing too much, man. I'm just taking me another break in between, man. Gotta rewrite a scene in my book, in this book we working on. Yeah, it's a shame, but that's how this shit go, bro. The timing of it just threw me off, man. I ain't gonna lie. Man, they on one, man. I'm a curry like Slim and Curry, man. You just gotta go, bro. We'll get you out of here, bro. We gonna clean the chat up real quick before we even get rolling. Who got picks for the NBA championship, man? Let's start there. I like SGA now for the win. I think that's why I think Golden. I think OKC gonna get it. 202 Wink, what's up? Yeah, I mean, for real, to be honest with you, as a content creator, I don't even want to keep on doing nothing about no Larry Hoover situation, bro, about no newspaper article. Like, it done got too much attention. He said, I'm a sore loser, might not even watch. I did that before. I did that before, several times. But this year, I just kept watching. But this internet, especially when it comes to this YouTube thing, where as though you presenting new content as much as possible, some things I'm just not gonna do. And he said they should let the old timers talk about the old man. It's not even. I mean, for real, think about it. Most of the people that's talking about the situation don't have a clue what was going on in 1968. They didn't even look at the byline of the article. The byline is who wrote the article. No one even investigated him. What are his sources? What type of reporter was he? Was he a beat reporter? Like, it's a lot of things that need to be asked about that situation. But at the end of the day, I think I'm about to leave that whole situation alone. I'm gonna leave that to Chicago. You know, I cover Larry Hoover because of the way in which, you know, my homies respect him and what I know, but technically that's their business to defend. What's up, what's up, what's up? But even in this internet world, this YouTube world, bro, they got to be some people that still got standards, bro. Some of them old timers used to catch a body and wait for the police as they was the code. In my generation, brothers tried to get away. Oh yeah, and Hefe did mention something that's right. It got to be documentation, bro. Affidavit, a police report, a transcript, a discovery, bro. Not a newspaper article though. I can't go for a newspaper article. Maybe for a lesser individual, a newspaper article will be the catalyst that gets you into the next layer of the conversation. But for a person like Larry Hoover, bro, you need more than a newspaper article. Your views is the standard views equals money. True, but it's certain things that I'm not going to do for money in real life. So it should be things I'm not going to do for money on the internet as well. Yeah, man. Like, just think about it. Certain jobs. If I was, you know, like, I ain't knocking nobody to clean toilets, but I ain't gonna make a career out of cleaning toilets. Somebody say exactly that's Chicago's business. They frying 1090 ass up on the net right now. Yeah, but everybody talk about 1090, so in a way, strategically, it's still a win for 1090. keep in mind, anybody that's talking about this, talking about Jake. I'm not going to get on the bandwagon and just get on the whole thing. Everybody talking about Jake. I'm going to skip it. I got other content to cover anyway. Right now we was talking about 1090 Jake for a minute, but I ain't gonna go out my way to bash him. All I'm gonna do is, man, look at the situation pertaining to Larry Hoover for what the facts are. So far, I'm not gonna get into disrespecting no guy like that about no newspaper. And it ain't about respecting this person or disrespecting that person for me. I just know that certain things are not official, black and white. But all the men that I'm talking to, myself included, the consensus is a newspaper article need more support. I can't believe he really read a newspaper article. It's just crazy. I mean, think about it. Everybody on the internet is into this type of thing in our culture. Subculture, hip hop culture, street culture, whatever you want to call it. The whole internet is in an uproar about that newspaper article. But I'm starting to understand the internet better anyway. Especially on this level. But for the sake of Larry Hoover honor, the dude said it ain't happened. Now what? Like, it should be the end of it now, right? The dude said that's not what happened. Who's a better defender of Larry Hoover in this situation than the person that the newspaper article said this happened and that happened? And the dude said that the newspaper article had it all wrong. How many times do we know the newspaper article in other situations to get it all wrong, bro? Yeah, man. If you gonna cover it, you gotta cover it right. That's true. Did he have a rebuttal yet? Who? Nick? Did who have a rebuttal yet? I don't think Larry Hoover gonna waste his time to respond to that shit. His team may, but once the dude Highsmith confirmed that he didn't tell nobody, there's nothing else to talk about. Bama's would have snitched out Hoover over 50 years ago if he was all bad. That's my position with this shit, y'all. It's just something that should have been came out a long time ago, bro. The type of levels that dude reached in that culture, that lifestyle. He did 20 years in the state. That's when it would have came out. He did 22 years in state. Let's see if you keep the same energy when you reach 100K. You may get on your diva shit like Aunt Glizzy. I mean, I ain't gonna take this opportunity to say nothing about Aunt Glizzy, but if I get 100,000 subscribers and YouTube is working for me to the point where I don't have to do nothing else. I mean, I'm human. Other mistakes that people make, I can make them, but I don't really see me going like that. But right now, when I'm at 28,000, shit, a lot of people did good in COVID. I started that DC Black shit during COVID. I was in the house all day. Although I had one of them bands, though I was working with the gun offenders. I had a government like a hallway pass to go out at night. But I really wasn't too. I mean, I used to only go out and like to get weed. I ain't say you was trying to bait me to do it, but a lot of times I end up getting in that type of situation. I ain't got nothing to say about that right now, man. I ain't keep feeding into that energy. I ain't gonna feed into that energy. I'm telling we ain't on that over here. Nah, it ain't no thing. You just ask the question. Artifacts, what's up? What it do? Salute. Salute to everybody in the chat. Make sure you hit that like button when you coming through the door. Subscribe to the channel, man. We in it for the long haul. We ain't in it for just today. What you know good on this Sunday? Oh, now you just got a TV on. Young and Halfway came on. I left it on to see what he was saying about Larry Hoover. Everything new with the anything new with the New Orleans boys? Nah, not that I'm saying the last two ones. They holding on. This nigga tripping. I don't know what it is. Man, it had to be the mastermind behind the joint. Bro, said you be in the gym. Yeah, I play around in the gym. I ain't no major bodybuilding shit, but you know what I mean. I'm in my 40s. I got to work out. Dude, Derek, something serious. I actually pray for God to keep the brother safe. Yeah, woo. That's what they call him in the street. Being on the run is an art form. Yeah, I got a homie. I got a homie that was on the run for like 7 years. Outran the supervision. He was on supervision for 5 years supervision. He outran the supervision and kept running. And got caught out of town. And the federal judge, they detained him and gave him a bond. Heard that they gave him a bond and let him go back to court. And in court, the judge threw the shit out. Was like, man, you stayed out of trouble all these years. Damn, they said the Wizards are a disappointment. Well, our football team might do something. At least I hope so. They say the police had the brother their grandmother killed when he was young. That man still on business and got back for that. Yeah, according to my New Orleans people, they say that whole got back for that. They say that that's folklore. They say that that part ain't true. Part about his grandmother true though. Yeah, the part about his grandmother, they say that's true. Gotta be nobody better to stay fit. Facts. I wish a lot of our people would just start exercising. It would save them a lot of unhealthy grief. Yeah, high blood pressure, hypertension, diabetes, all that shit. And you got the real Marlo Stanfield interview. You're the only one that can do that. I've been checking on that though. I'm gonna try to get it though. My man said he could do that. I'm gonna try to see if we can get that done. I think I read 2 prosecutors got the hell out of Louisiana. Yeah, I saw at least one of them did. You said 2 of them got about it. They take that boy serious. Baltimore in here. Shout out to my Baltimore family, man. Yeah, they talking about people say they interested in the real Marlo Stanfield interview. What you think about that, G man? You think that could be pulled off? You know the right question to ask. Yeah, I mean, and I know some DC guys that used to be down there back then, Lexington, Terrace, and something else. To a Murphy Homes. Pennsylvania Avenue, Martin Luther King. Yeah, that'd be a real good story. You think I could pull it off though, G-Man? Chill out. I got a little beef with the wire. Shout out to Nikki Bullock. Yeah, you can pull it off. Yeah, I'm gonna tap in with I ain't gonna name drop a whole bunch on here, but I got some real serious Baltimore guys that I fuck with. I mean, and not even just from the internet, from the streets and from the joint. Damn, you said roaches with an S, boy, you terrible. We ain't got no roach problem over here. I ain't even gotta look around about that. I ain't know Alpo ever said anything about Baltimore. He said he dissed Baltimore acting like he was the gatekeeper to DC. I ain't know that. I ain't even know that was a story or a topic. But I was in the city and I was in the streets, although I was a little nigga. I was around when Poe was in the city. So a lot of stuff that I be hearing about that shit, and that shit ain't a lot of that shit ain't true. I mean, even the way some of the stories are told to this day about this happened and that happened in the streets, the people who was in the streets know that a lot of that ain't true. Peace to be more. I'm about to stop down there on my way to NC. Shout out to NC. Hey, Nick Young, direct him to that DC Blacks channel. Yeah, G-Man said he ain't know. He said, I never even heard Poe talk about Baltimore, to be honest with you. I'm not going to say he didn't. I mean, I'm just not aware of it. Yeah, Nick Young, I appreciate that. I was interested in that. I was holding off on it because I had a couple more Baltimore guys. They got some legendary stories. But I think these Baltimore interviews I'm about to start doing, the few that I got lined up. I'm glad you said something about that. My man go to court on the 5th. That's this week. I got to drive to Baltimore. My man go to trial this week. He said he told dudes DC is refs will try Baltimore. Baltimore ain't sweet. He told somebody that. He was setting their ass up. Back in the day, you'll get cracked out Baltimore fast. You'll get cracked on this side because you'll sleep on them niggas. So, remember, my people's got a house in East Baltimore to this day. So, I used to be in Baltimore as a kid. I don't know why they be talking that shit. I heard Carvalho tell somebody a story about they walked on some block in Baltimore and took it over. Bruh, you would get your shit knocked across the street in Baltimore playing. Like, I don't know if y'all niggas done watch The Wire and think that, for people who don't know, if you ain't been to Baltimore, you don't understand. Just like if you ain't been to DC, you don't. If you just watch that shit on the news, you don't know what you're doing. It's like trying to sail from Virginia Beach to England and you never been on a boat before. Like, you don't know what you're doing. Poe was talking in the old interview saying that he would have intercepted his fellow Harlem youngers and advised them on how to move while in DC, but the ones he felt was soft, he told them to go to Baltimore. Yeah, I ain't gonna dispute that happened, but that ain't the best of that. Like, that's like saying who you want to fight, Mike Tyson or George Foreman. Marlo got the documentary coming out. Y'all be nice combo. Where do I find out about this documentary? I ain't even know this documentary was coming out. Most of you niggas can't last 5 minutes in Baltimore. See, I ain't even got to defend Baltimore. I forgot Baltimore up in here. Bruh, in the 80s, in the 90s, in any of the 2000s, you pull up in Baltimore playing, bruh, they call that bitch Baltimore Murderland, bruh. Like, that city, the murder rate stay consistent almost. What you mean is that bad? Let them lunch out. Let them lunch out and see. Like that nigga, like that politician out of Pennsylvania said when he was talking about people who wanted to behave lawlessly. He said, fuck around and find out. You go to Baltimore, you'll fuck around and find out. That's one of the first places I learned that you go out of town and you think something sweet, you'll look at it, you know what I mean? But that's a privilege of being from DC. Our newspaper covered them. When I was a kid and we only had certain channels to watch, I grew up in DC. I grew up watching Channel 20. We thought it was big shit that we could get Baltimore 45 and Channel 2 on our TV with the antenna. I used to watch Baltimore news as a kid. I had uncles in the Baltimore penitentiary, bro. So as a DC nigga, I mean, that's another reason why I understand Richmond. I had uncles in the Richmond penitentiary. I'm from DC. Our family can be caught up anyway, but I met dudes in and out of jail that may sleep on Baltimore or you know, think that there's something sweet about Baltimore. That's a different place, bro. They will crack your ass out there and keep it stepping. He said New York know about Baltimore. They was coming down here, and then they started telling New York niggas, do not stop in Baltimore. Go straight to Virginia or North Carolina. I do remember that during time when they was going to Virginia Beach. I remember all that. I think Baltimore took a lot of organizational skills from New York hustlers, though. No disrespect. Would you agree with that, G-Man? I mean, because Baltimore still got organization. Like, they still make niggas line up and they got order. Like, they don't do that where I'm from. If you seen somebody that had order and they was lining up in D.C. and this and that, they was coming from New York or Baltimore. At least in my early time, East Baltimore in the building. Salute. What's up, Dexter? Man, that's why I said he dissed B more because what he said was absolutely crazy. I think anybody in the country supposed to know that that shit that they be saying about Baltimore is not even realistic. It's called the real Marlo Stanfield. All right, well, I'm looking for that real Marlo Stanfield, John. I didn't even know that was coming. Especially when Anthony Jones is on the street. He was tearing the New York niggas' ass up. No disrespect to New York, but that's a fact. New York niggas that got out of bounds when AJ and it was on the street, we heard about them in DC, bro. And that ain't no disrespect to New York. But you know what? I never heard of DC niggas ever going to New York doing anything. So I don't know if they, I mean, I'm sure DC dude went to New York because I know homies, big, older homies. that was going to New York, but not doing to New York to set up shop. Like niggas in New York leave New York to get money. I never heard of nobody going to New York to get no money and take over. Now some of them foreign people, but you know what? Technically that ain't true because Frank Matthews, Frank Lucas, not to put them in the same category. All them Bumpy Johnson, all them boys is from the South. They from the Carolinas, North Carolina, South Carolina. Larry Hoover from Mississippi, Jeff Fort from Mississippi, Alabama. A lot of George Jackson was from down south somewhere, maybe Louisiana. A lot of notable people come out the South and go further north and become something, even take over. I mean, I just listed I just went all the way back to the 70s for your ass. Off the memory. I gotta give it to New York though. Them Bammers was everywhere like zombies. Yeah, we used to call them roaches. They was everywhere like roaches. The ones that took it on the road, New York is worse. I just DM'd him your IG, man. Appreciate you, Nick Young. He got your platform, it's over. I mean, he get on your platform, it's over. Yeah, one of my homies, man, they hooked me up with some good Baltimore old time hustlers, like under Melvin Williams in them age. And a lot of them say they be watching the channel, they be liking how I do it. They say they hate when I be arguing with them niggas. I be trying to stop arguing with them niggas. I don't really be doing that on YouTube anyway. Yeah, because niggas was robbing them or killing them. That's a true bill. Where am I from? I'm from DC, homie. I like the energy out Baltimore, but I don't go out there looking for no trouble. I don't go nowhere looking for trouble. I'd have been New Orleans, Baltimore, Dallas, LA, Atlanta, Miami, Tampa. I mean, and I ain't gonna say I go out everywhere, but in some of them places, dudes out with in the crowd. Like I don't really like going out. I don't be having time for a bunch of niggas. My girl done got me to go out to places. I go here and there. I don't go nowhere acting tough or looking for trouble. That's a recipe for a closed casket. I don't go nowhere looking for trouble, bruh. It don't have to be sweet to try it. That was just the mentality back then. What's up, Uptown E? AR86, what it do? Why was there so much killing going on? Gangs or drugs? Man, probably, man, turf and respect. Sometimes just, man, you know, certain people's styles don't mix. Like, I know New York guys or guys that was from Jamaica or Panama, like West Indian guys that was in DC, in the 80s and the 90s, things used to go wrong and haywire so much because our styles was so different. You could tell the difference. The walk, the talk, the jury, the goal in the mouth. Like, that wasn't a DC thing. And one thing about DC guys, they territorial. Like most people, but DC guys real territorial. You can't come to DC from out of town and not be noticed, but you can be from DC and go to another part of town and the motherfucker don't put their eyes on you. And went to New York to bust heads since the 70s. Who did that? Most of New York was from the South. My grandfather was from Mississippi. Most of DC from the South. But you see, I just named all them legendary gangsters from up top. They came from the South. They moved north for better opportunities. So that's the story of a lot of them. New York is like China. It's overcrowded. They just fan out and hustle. Yeah, that's why I said, man, if you think about it, I never heard of dudes packing up and moving to New York to hustle. Tookie Williams was from Louisiana. Yeah, another one. I forgot about that one. Angela Davis came from the South, like Shreveport, Louisiana. If I ain't mistaken, somebody fact check that for me. I used how the New York dudes would come down and set up shop. A lot was getting crushed. I mean, there's a bunch of stories of the New York guys, something happening to them. But there's a bunch of stories of dudes that survived. There's a bunch of stories of dudes that came down and stayed here, got kids and families. Like I got homies that was in Lawton with us that was from New York. So like I'm gonna keep it all the way 100. But New York guys leave New York so much, it's almost like a New York thing. You'll find a New York guy in prison anywhere, Georgia, Texas. I ain't talking about feds. I'm talking about locked up in their state. I got a lot of DC homies that's in Georgia state doing numbers. Shout out to Al Malik Farrakhan. I used to remember when Baltimore smack capital. That's a fact. Baltimore smack capital. I think so. The real Baltimore is worse than the Wire. The Wire captured a little bit of it, but you got to go to Baltimore to fully understand the dynamics of Baltimore. You could go to Baltimore and come back in a box, or you could go to Baltimore and come back with a new outfit. You could go to Baltimore and eat some of the best seafood on the East Coast. Just my opinion, like the Baltimore seafood, they be on one. But I'm from DC. I got the privilege of being right up the street, as we say. Technically, we south of Baltimore, so I'm really right down the street. But when we say that, we say, man, you going up there? I've never been nowhere in this country and niggas ain't get along with us. My block in New York was the smack capital. We didn't even have a crack epidemic. Damn. Was Big G from Backyard Bad in the streets? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I met him in the streets. Hey, Eon, a long time ago, my old head from Southeast told me that the only New York banders that his crew had problems with was Harlem cats, but BK dudes was cool. Would you agree, or was it different in your area? No disrespect to Harlem dudes. All the Harlem dudes I met, they was cool and they never was setting up shop. Now, Poe is a Harlem dude that came down here and technically he set up shop to an extent, but they ain't have a hand-to-hand operation. He was jamming, he was selling weight. But the dudes that I know of, this ain't saying that anybody else's story or their recollection of the DC New York issue. I ain't saying that nobody else's recollection is not true, but my recollection, the Brooklyn niggas, they came down here. They was in Eastgate. They was in Simple City. A lot of dudes from Simple City, DC don't even know this, but they had some Clifton Terrs, parts of Kennedy Street. It was some Harlem dudes up there too, though, but Brooklyn dudes, like, I believe Butch Boogie and them came out of Brooklyn, but for sure over there in Eastgate. I mean, even parts of 37. A lot of people don't know that a lot of Brooklyn dudes set up shop in Southeast and stayed and had kids. A lot of those guys from Southeast, I ain't gonna say a lot of those guys. Some of my homies from Southeast, they daddies are from New York. A lot of people don't know that. They daddies are from New York. I can name 10 of them. I'm not gonna name them because that's their personal business, but I can name 10 Southeast dudes from DC that turned out to be thorough DC dudes. Got New York fathers. Do anybody know that? They used to talk about a guy named Red Jack. I got pictures of Red Jack. I'm about to do a story on Frey, and I got some pictures of Red Jack in there. He said they used to talk about a guy named Red Jack that was from New York that was down in DC hustling. I ain't gonna really say Red Jack was down in DC hustling. Red Jack was in DC and he was getting money, but Red Jack was like a connect to certain DC dudes. So I'm not saying this is a true bill, but this is an example. Red Jack could come to DC. He gonna know you. He gonna know Frey, Eddie Mathis, all the top dudes. And if he got something that he need taken care of money-wise, he can get it taken care of in DC. Just like I know stories to go back in the day dealing with Red Jack where dudes was on the run in DC. And Dudes like Frey might be taking care of them while on the run. And they may send them to New York, and Red Jack will put them up all over New York. I mean, Long Island, the Bronx. Like, I got tons of story about the dude Red Jack. Red Jack's supposed to be a legendary dude. I might even, I mean, I got some pictures of him so I could do a quick one on it, but I'm gonna have to call my uncle. I ain't gonna say my uncle name, but I got an uncle that ran with Frey and Red Jack. Most of the pictures that I got with all the New York dudes, like, see, now you going back to the 70s and the 80s when I was a real live kid. But I know a little bit about that too. Of all the big time hustlers from back in the day, uh did any of them escape the system and live to tell it and not tell about it? I'm sure. I don't know a whole bunch of them that didn't go in though. I know a few, but all the ones that I know, they went in for a minute. They had some type of brush with the law. I was saying New York cats never really came to Philly either like that, but we definitely came up there to bust heads since the 70s. Well, one thing about Philly, they take their gun violence on the road. Bro, why you just came in here and say up for debate? What you talking about? What do you know about Little Melvin Williams? Little Melvin Williams was a hell of a guy out of Baltimore. He was locked up in the feds with my homies. I heard a lot about him. I got cousins that lived down the street from him, old cousins. Nick Young, you got him up out of here. Good looking, man. Bust him off the top. Steve O, your cap in New York bought the robbery game to Philly. I'm gonna stay out that Philly, New York business. I'm gonna let y'all do that shit. I'm gonna watch y'all comments though. Please keep it respectful. New York niggas leave New York because of their laws, and they can get their shit for real cheap up there and sell it for more when they leave. That's what I was always taught when I was a youngin'. I used to run into New York niggas in North Carolina, like High Point, Fayetteville. You'll see them niggas everywhere down there. I mean, even for DC guys, none of us that I knew, like I knew some homies that had partners in Baltimore so they can get in Baltimore and maybe make some money, but they wasn't setting up no shop. But when we was kids, we used to drive up 270 and go to Frederick, Maryland, and thump that joint out. But Baltimore be up there too. I might say shout out to Cherry here, no capping, bro. It's public knowledge and videos talking about that respectfully. That's true. In 2025, who you taking? A Baltimore or a DC joint? I don't think of how women was in the 80s and 90s, but how women are in 2025. A Baltimore joint or a DC joint? Well, both of them gonna come with the challenges, but I'm from DC, so most of the time, if I'm dealing with a woman from DC, I can do a background check on her. Now, Baltimore, I may be able to do a background check, but I'm not gonna know what high school you went to and your cousin and who you fucked with and who you fucked with before and what type of nigga they was. I had to do a full-fledged background search on you. So I take my chances with somebody that's from DC, they mama and they father from DC, somebody know them. You know who they mess with before you. You know what type of person they supposed to be. Brooklyn got love for DC. Shout out to Brooklyn. I've been to be more in DC in the early 90s. I relate more to DC, but I'm more comfortable in B-more. B-more brothers will let you rock if you're not in the way. Okay. You heard of Red Jack from New York? Yeah, them comments I'm way must be way late. But yeah, I know exactly who Red Jack is. Alpo's story got glamorous through the media. It's other dudes way bigger figures in DC than Alpo. That's true. Somebody say, be more chick. Nah, I'm Gucci. Who the biggest rapper / MC in Baltimore? I don't know. I was in the feds. I asked the same Southeast old head, hey, how come y'all let Alpo live in DC? He said to me, Southwest Wayne said not to touch him. That stuck with me for a while. Ah, man. I ain't say it. Oh, YG Tech. Scholar. I heard of them. Yeah, but I ain't gonna lie. A lot of out of towners did come to DC. It just came with a lot of problems. But like, I know a lot of out of towners that came to DC and had, in the process of fighting for whatever they call theirs, they dropped double-digit bodies. Like in the '90s, man. I don't know if y'all be thinking this nigga be exaggerating, but in the '90s in DC, bro, this shit was like Beirut. You hear me? I mean Beirut. Baltimore niggas are quick to rob. DC niggas are quick to delete. Baltimore niggas will do the same thing though, bruh. Oh, bruh, say I'm more geeked about the Marlo Joe than you. He had some interviews, but they wasn't asking the right questions. Where the interviews at? I ain't even know this, bruh. Like, the interviews on YouTube? Yo, y'all hear about Chris Webber and Doug Christie? What happened? What's up with them? I don't recall DC being too friendly to outsiders. Nah, not at all. Not even to this day. Even if you knew somebody, it wasn't 100%, you would be good. Nah, because remember, I'm not going to say no names in this, but you had dudes that came to DC under the friendship of other people and still got. The murder capital. They got some clips on IG. Send it to me on the DC Black Journal. I'm going to find it then. So the clips on IG, if you said they only on IG, then they ain't on YouTube. They must didn't do a full joint or something. Maybe we go lay down. Why you keep bothering me, short? They got some clips on IG. Chris was banging his wife when they was teammates on the Sacramento Kings. Top 5 gangsters ever, all over the country. That's too hard for me to do off the top of my head. Respect for whoever PR team don't know what they're doing. I'm lost, bro. Oh, the PR team. All right. Yeah, but I personally know dudes who were in Philly, Manhattan, Bronx, and Brooklyn. And Doug Christie's daughter, Chantel, is really Chris Webber's daughter. I ain't getting into all that shit right there. I'm gonna leave that for TMZ. I'm gonna leave that for Gully TV. He'll cover some shit like that. I'm gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna leave that one alone. Real talk, I'm gonna leave it alone. They hold on to content. They don't know the world move fast. Gotta drop ASAP. Yeah, man. I mean that type of content. But see, sometimes dudes be holding exclusive content too, because they be having ideas and other moves in effect. And I mean, I know that too. I mean, 13 years ago, about 13 years ago, I was working on the Wayne Perry documentary, and we held it and held it and held it until it fell apart. And I got to the point where I released some of it, like the interviews with Michi. I released them on YouTube. But that was for a project. But the project kept stalling and stalling and collapsing and collapsing. I moved on in life. Philly was our little brother in the '80s when it came to rapping. That might be true. What was your relationship like with PG back in the day, Ian? I had family that lived in PG. Like some of my family, like for an example, I had aunts and uncles that when they moved out of grandma's house, they couldn't afford nowhere in DC. So they ended up moving to places like Forest Creek, Silver Spring, District Heights. So like I never looked at PG like, oh, them niggas was Bammers. Like my family was living out there. And I'm not gonna say that it wasn't no type of set tripping back in the day, that would be a lie. But I'm just saying, it wasn't like that with me. I'm DC born and raised, but I kept my ass on the sidewalk. I used to see out of towners hanging with certain individuals and just shake my head thinking to myself, they ain't got no clue. Oh, they ain't got a clue. Yeah. I got to agree with you on that. You got all this hair on me, girl. Go sit down. Watch out. Man, don't let the out of town be from broad she get ran through. That's what I'm saying. They looking at the wire instead of jumping on YouTube and getting busy. I'm telling you, E, you the one that can breathe some life into that Marlowe story. If I can get a hold of it, I'm gonna put it on my platform. I'm gonna blow it up because I know who the fuck he was in real life. That the wire, that's some Hollywood shit. I know what type of power them dudes really had in the streets, all the way here in DC. I told you I got a homie that know them. He speak highly of them to this day. He told me the other day, he said, man, why the fuck you don't be doing no Baltimore stories? I want the direct scoop. I could tell the secondhand story. I'm from DC. I seen all the Baltimore shit. I read the Baltimore Sun. Peace to Philly, my son trying to rewrite history. When we was young, I remember we used to skip y'all online at Six Flags Great Adventures. He dug in the crates for you, bruh. Gee, man, every time I go out of town and somebody know him from Baltimore, that's the first thing they ask me about is the wire, and I tell them Baltimore is 10 times worse than that wire. Kevin Child seemed sad when he thought about all his fellow New Yorkers that got murdered in D.C. That must have been trying to play aggressive with y'all for them to be getting clapped like that. I mean, I know some DC dudes that just don't like people from out of town. Like I met some good New York dudes back in the day when we was young, and some niggas from DC just did not like them. It didn't matter who they was. If they ain't have a team, see, like good New Yorker or bad New Yorker, according to being an out of towner in DC, they was only gonna be as strong as the people they dealt with in DC. Even if they was a cold-blooded gangster, killer, gorilla, King Kong, you gotta sleep somewhere, you gotta park somewhere, you gotta eat somewhere, you gotta party somewhere. Like, you had to know what you was doing in DC. DC dudes got to know what they doing in DC. Even to this day. This ain't no cakewalk. You know damn well Philly ain't having that. I ain't never known Philly to go for nothing. I mean, and I've been to Philly several times in the hood. Like, them niggas be standing on business. The men. You know damn well. To keep it fair, I know people who got shot in Philly too. Bro, people get cracked everywhere. We ain't gonna interject that into the conversation. Just because somebody get cracked don't make them less of a man or less of a gangster. They had a DVD story about the dude Avon Barksdale from B-More. I ain't see that neither. But I'm gonna check my my Instagram for this Marlowe situation. I'm gonna write it down and call my man in the morning. My man be going to bed early. And I'm gonna see what's up with that Marlowe story. That's right down the line of what I do. I'm from B-More. I've worked in DC for years. Only place I saw people outside from 5 years old to 50. Bro, you ain't the first person to say that. I ain't know that was a thing, that from 5 to 50 people be outside of DC. Late at night, too. It don't be as much as it was now like it used to be back in the day. Back in the day, summertime, If it wasn't for it being dark outside, you wouldn't know if it was 12 p.m. or 12 a.m. I mean, music would be loud, smoking, drinking, crabs. The Bogsdales, that's a legendary family. Yeah, my uncle was telling me about that. When that Frey video dropping, I don't know, man. Like, Frey's such a touchy issue for me, my family, my friends. I'm only gonna touch on Frey and subjects. You know, Slim was a giant. Like, I can't do it in one video, but it may be great content for periodic videos. I might try to work on some of it tonight. I got tons of pictures of Slim. Eon, you hit the nail on the head. DC had super predators out there, so I know. Alpo had to have been hiding because Wayne's word ain't that powerful to keep predators off of Alpo's ass. I'm saying, don't forget that Alpo was smart too, right? I mean, and don't forget that he came from New York. He came from a fast city, so he wasn't slow. He knew how to maneuver. What's the Hood? By Frederick Douglass joint. What, Chopper City, all that? My uncle just OD'd on that Fatty Wap and B more. He been fiending with the dope since the 80s. I'm from NYC, and we used to act like we was better than people in their own city. That's what I remember. That would make anybody feel some kind of way. Yeah, that's what I remember as a kid. That goes for every city, NY, DC, Philly, etc. Any out of town is fair game if they don't move right in any of these cities. Yeah, LA also. He say any city, yeah. Chopper City. I read the Free story. KD put 1090 Jake in the cell with Wayne and tell Wayne Hoover a rat. Yeah, I told somebody I'm not gonna keep on bidding on the 1090 Jake shit, but being as though that you mentioned that, if they put 1090 Jake in the cell with Wayne and he and 1090 Jake was talking about that Hoover rat, Wayne gonna have an issue with that. I will say that. I can stamp that. That's a fact. A couple DC homies gonna have a problem with that in real life, but 1090 Jake in the YouTube world, he not gonna never see those type of guys. And that's not to disrespect 1090 Jake. I'm just saying where he go and enjoy life is not the place where dudes is doing life is at. NYC is about 90% gentrified. NYC never sleeps. We've been outside from all ages every day from birth till now. Why Dan Riley tried to say Wayne was extorting Frey, I never heard that BS, but when he said that, I was confused. I might address that in my issue. Let me write that down. That's not true. I don't care what nobody say that ain't true. Let me write that down, though. Yeah. I'm gonna get the take for a couple people that's still alive that was around and respected both parties. But I just recently been watching documentaries on the DC Blacks and the ABs and watched interviews on both sides and want to know your opinion on if you think Cadillac what? Why was New York coming down here like it was sweet back in the day? Money-wise, it probably was sweet. Wasn't no big connects in DC. I mean, the biggest dude that came out of DC that turned into a rat, he got a plug from somewhere else. But the market was open, and the market was jumping and thriving, for lack of a better term. Nah, according to my research, Cadillac didn't have on handcuffs when he died. You're right. That's how a lot of y'all used to act, and that's how a lot of y'all didn't make it back home. That's a fact from Baltimore. A lot of dudes got ran out of New York before going out of town. I heard that later. I didn't understand that as a kid, though. I really didn't understand that as a kid. Almost got my ass jumped and chopped by the grace of God. I made it up out of there. You can lose your life over Chopper City. What do you know about Frey nephew Poochie? Man, it's like my cousin, Daryl Salters. Hell of a fighter, and will step to you and do that. And went crazy when Frey got killed. Sorry to admit, you're right, G-Man. I feel you're real. You will stand on business anywhere you go, but also move humble and intelligent. KD, Tank or Roach? I gotta go with Tank. I gotta go with Roach. Ask Fly who he got. I asked Fly that last go round. I don't think he knew enough about Lamar Roach at the time. That's true about us New Yorkers. We do act like we better than people. We do act like we better than people in their own city, and that's caused us a lot of problems out of town and in jail. Southeast DC is equal to East Baltimore. I go for something like that. June 14th is the fight. East Baltimore is no joke. You can stand on business all you want, but if you are in an unfamiliar city setting up shop, you are greatly outnumbered. Yeah, and you out of bounds. Frey's such an interesting dude to me. To command such respect from so many gangsters is amazing. I mean, dude was some straight head buster, but they respected him. Yeah, Frey had a head on his shoulders. Now, I just mentioned all these dudes that grew and ascended to legendary status, and I mentioned that they came from the South, right? I want all my New York people to listen up. Frey, who was a legendary DC guy, he came from the North. He was born in Buffalo, New York. Did y'all know that? No number, friend, no one person run DC or PG. Motherfucker, if you say you do, motherfucker really see what they know, whatever. You said it right the first time. Your heart said, Tank. I knew somebody was gonna say that. I was reading, but I'm with Roach. That's true. A lot of dudes got ran away from NYC and went out of town to survive. I mean, some of them went out of town to thrive too. I don't think a dude like Frey could exist in the late 90s or the 2000s. If you wasn't from a nigga hood, you could get it. Dan Riley definitely said that Wayne was extorting Frey and patted his pockets. That's another thing that listen, home. Ain't no way in the world. But Dan said a lot of things that was actually incorrect in that jump. But back then I really wasn't on it. But now that I'm doing my YouTube thing, that I got some notes that I wrote down about that. But listen, bro, ain't nobody and they mama gonna tell you that somebody was patting Frey pockets, bro. You don't get the legendary DC status and a nigga treating you like that. Some things a dude gotta use common sense about, bro. That ain't happening. Wayne ain't gonna say that happened. And don't forget that before the street legend, glamour, all that shit, Frey could fight. Like, Frey was on the boxing team down Lawton. And he'd get you hit. And he'd do you himself if he had to, bruh. Frey not the type of nigga was gonna let nobody walk up on them and pat their pockets. Anybody believe that? Crazy. I don't think. Fuck out of here. The FBI and that man, listen, I might have to go back and watch that interview. A lot of things that dude said was inaccurate. Is Sean Branch official? Yeah. Exactly, Eon. If anybody patted Frey pockets, Frey would have at least knocked Wayne out with the quickness. Well, I'm not going to get into Frey would have knocked Wayne out. I'm going to skip that part. I'm going to leave Wayne out of it. I'm saying anybody that would have patted Frey pockets, Frey would have dealt with them on the spot, bro. So just because you asking about Wayne, yeah, I'm saying that, yeah, somebody in the street may ask me about it. Any other legendary dude that you know in DC, if they would have patted Frey pockets on the scene at the moment, Frey would have dealt with it. That's how the history would go. It's almost like, do you think somebody would walk up to Mike Tyson and put their hand all in his face? I would bet Mike Tyson gonna do something about it right there. Dan Riley don't know nothing. Man, he's wrong about that. I'm not gonna get into what he do know and what he don't know, but he's not a better authority than the streets of DC. People who was really there. Wasn't no fucking pat, no motherfucking Frey pockets, bruh. That shit is insane. That shit is insane for somebody to even say that shit is crazy. He was you locked up with Rayful? Nah, Rayful older than me. Rayful went to jail in 89. I went to jail in 93. I meant to say anybody, not Wayne Slim. My bad for the time. Oh, yeah, I'm talking about anybody. Like, I ain't saying what Wayne and Frey. Wayne and Frey had numerous encounters in DC history. Some of them I know about, some of them I talk about, some of them I don't. But that shit, that story don't exist. That's dead. When I heard the story, I know, bruh, I'm telling you it's bullshit, and I'm telling you this, don't believe me. If you know anybody that has knowledge of DC history, ask anybody. And if a nigga say that it happened, ask him how do he know. He gonna tell you that somebody told him. Nobody gonna say they seen it. Damn, Rayful run wasn't that long. No, I ain't gonna say his run wasn't that long, but Rayful went to jail at something like 22 years old, bruh. His big run with the Connect, according to the FBI, not according to me or the DC streets, was only something like 24 to 36 months. That's not saying that he wasn't getting money before that. I was misquoted. One time I did an interview on Gully TV. When he came down here to interview somebody else, we talked about Rayful for a minute. And I said something pertaining to the investigation. That's only based on what the FBI says. What you think? You think a dude like Frey could have the same command in the 90s? Early 2000s? Well, Frey died in 91, so his name was still ringing in the 90s, but yeah, I think he would have had to adapt. Remember, we talking about Frey because of his legendary status, but most people only know of Frey from what occurred in the 90s with Alpo and Rayful Edmond and Wayne Perry and all these names that come up in the Washington Post. But Frey's name transcended from the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. So if he was able to transition from the 70s, remember, Frey had a drug problem when he was a young guy. Like most young thugs and gangsters that come up out of the streets of DC, they had heroin addictions at some point in time. So for him to come up out of that, like remember, if you go back and do the real history, when people talk about Frey, they talk about those years of his life. Whereas though that he had a struggle with drug addiction, like my father, my mother, many other people that came up. So if he could come up out of that shit to rise to be a king, a giant, sure he would have been able to survive. You know what I mean? I think that I think with the murder capital and killing raising to a high, I think that Frey may have been a person that thought that maybe it couldn't happen to him. Which other old timers told me that. I'm not saying that's true, but I heard that. Mike Tyson was a hell of a youngin' before he went to Costamato. How many state prisons did DC have? The feds took over. DC ain't took over nowhere, bro. That's some shit niggas be making up. The homies ain't took over nothing like that. Sometimes they just put so many of us dead that we change the dynamics of the place. If you want to say that's taking over, then I'm sure we done went somewhere where technically we done took over, but I don't tell a bunch of stories about the homies took over this and the homies took over that. Tyson was a wild young dude before boxing. Boxing saved his life. 22 years old, you ain't even been experienced life. Some men don't get it all the way together until 40. Yeah, but he experienced a lot in life. Even at his young age. Frey's name rung in New NYC. Frey spent a lot of time in New York. But like I told you, Frey was born in Buffalo, New York. Frey took DC dudes like Eddie Mathis, Wookie, like dudes who name ring. He took them to Buffalo. I got information when some of them first got out of prison, they went to Buffalo and started cranking to get up to come back to DC. True bill. Yeah, that dope was a motherfucker. Can't lie, I wanted to be Frey and Tony Fortune. Well, those was the type of dudes that people looked up to if you was from DC. I used to work at Clyde's of Chevy Chase with Frey's nephew, Marcus. Oh, yeah? He told me that the police still looking for Frey. That's funny. I can hear him saying that. Back then, a 3 to 4 year run was long time because it was a lot of money in the streets. And that time, we are talking millions a month in big cities. If you was a big enough guy, that's true. I mean, I done articles on dudes. For an example, Eddie Mathis. If you read his case, they were making $30,000 a day on some good days in their heyday when they had operations set up. Like, according to the police report, it say 9th and U 715. They had shops set up and they was killing them. Is it true that Wayne took Tony Fortune heart? I can't speak on that. I wasn't there. I don't know nothing about that, but what I will say is dudes like Tony Fortune, bro, you don't take that type of person heart. You got to kill them. I used to be terrified going down to Gods when I was young, man. The Gods was a highly dangerous place, bro. They need to shoot a movie in the Gods. Too bad brothers didn't flip that money to stay tangible. That's what I was thinking when you asked the question. But it's almost 10 o'clock. I got a prior engagement. I got to take care of something real quick. I'm gonna come back and hang out, man. I appreciate all the love in the chat, man. Subscribe to the channel. And I'm gonna constantly, man, try to keep, man, thinking and being creative and bring something original. And remember that the base of my content really is always something about DC. Even if I venture out from DC to go to do something else, it's something that we connected to. What's up with the young boy No Savage? Shout out to No Savage. Shout out to 37. Which hoods you think had the hardest rep from each section? I got Buried Farm, Sursum Quarters, Langston Turs, 21st in Vietnam, and 106. I don't know. We're going to save that one for the next go round because I'm going to have to think. And you just named multiple notorious hoods.